Roger, JP, 102.5 The Bone, Real Raw Radio. Welcome to the Lunch Crew. Good to have you here. And everybody listening who are maybe driving in your cars, north, east, south, whatever you're thinking of, it is time to get the exact, fresh, up-to-date, what's going on with the weather deal from Dave Osterberg at Fox 13.
Bet you're not eating your little fancy cheese now, are you?
I just bought some. and honestly, I bought the bigger tub this time because this is going to be a long week. But
that's a good idea,
let's get into
Dave.
this because. Okay, so let's talk about the 11 o'clock advisory. And there's been an update since the advisory came out that Milton is now a Category 5 hurricane. Winds are estimated to be about 160 miles per hour. Now, I do want you to understand, there's a lot of things. I don't know how much time we have to talk, but let's talk first about...
My man, the floor is yours.
Whatever
do not
you want.
worry about time.
Everybody wants to know the details.
Unless
so
your cheese melts, and then you got a problem.
So this has been expected to happen. The models all weekend long have been saying this is going to ramp up to a 4 or a 5. Okay, the Hurricane Center tries to be conservative, just not to scare people. But it's also forecast to start to ramp down as it's approaching the coast. So it's a Category 5 now. It will remain a major hurricane all the way up until just before landfall when it's going to start to weaken. Why will it weaken? Because just to the north of us, right along the northern Gulf Coast, there's going to be a trough there, and there's going to be a lot of wind shear, a tremendous amount of wind shear. And that is going to start to impact this storm and try to start to tear it apart. It's not in that wind shear now. It's to the south of it. That's why it's doing what it's doing now. This is a smaller storm than Helene was. Helene was a much larger size storm. So the fact that this is a smaller storm, it can fluctuate up and down quickly. Like it ramped up to a Cat 5, right? It could ramp back down to a 3 or a 2 before landfall. And it's going to fluctuate in intensity all the way up until landfall. Now, nobody is going to be able to tell you exactly where this is going to make landfall. The eye or the center of the storm is about 25 miles around, okay? It's small. So that's where you're going to get the core winds, right around that center, okay, when that center makes landfall sometime on Wednesday evening. Now, the stretch of coastline goes from, say, Cedar Key all the way down to Fort Myers. I think based on the models, we can narrow that down a little bit more, a little bit kind of closer, because most of the models are bringing it very close to the Tampa Bay area. Most of them are. And there's time to fluctuate this forecast, 20 miles north, 20 miles south. Where this storm makes landfall is of the most importance, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Because let's say it makes landfall in the Tampa Bay area, that's where your storm surge is going to be 8 to 12 feet. Okay, if it makes landfall to the south, that's where your storm surge is going to be 8 to 12 feet. The core and the hardest part of this storm is going to be right around where the center makes landfall. Okay, so this is not going to be a storm that, let's say the center was to make landfall near the Tampa Bay area. As you get up into Citrus County, they're not going to have much of an impact. The other aspect of this storm is it's moving across the state. Remember Helene, and of course we had Debbie, and we've had a bunch of storms do this. They moved to our west up to the Big Bend. That's not going to happen. This is coming straight through the state. So if you're listening from Lakeland, for instance, you've got the potential for hurricane force winds Wednesday night. So now you've opened up pretty much the entire listening area to issues with this storm. It's not going to be confined to the coast this time. So you're going to be looking at, to summarize it all, nothing's going to happen today, tonight, or tomorrow. You are fine. Plenty of time to prepare. Listen to you guys. Get your stuff together. Okay? The evacuations are going out now, and I know A and B in Hillsborough start at 2:30. Please heed those evacuations. Please listen. I know it's a massive, massive inconvenience for you and your family. I get that. Okay? But better to be safe than sorry, especially with a storm of this size. Wednesday morning, we'll get tropical storm force winds with the hurricane force winds coming at some point Wednesday afternoon with a landfall Wednesday night. That's when the storm surge is. That's when the heaviest winds and the rains are. And then it should be fully out of here by about Thursday morning or so. So it's going to be a window of Wednesday, late morning, all the way through the wee early morning hours of Thursday. That's our weather window for this. Still gives us a couple of days, guys, to prepare, okay?
We're on.
What do you think
Fox.
so far?
I think you're pretty good. We're on with Fox 13 weather guy Dave Osterberg. My question for you is, what's your gut telling you? What's your gut? You can look at these models all day long and all that, but you've been doing this for a long time. What is your gut telling you?
My gut is telling me that even though this storm is going to weaken upon approach, that it's going to be a significant problem for where it makes landfall. That's honestly what my gut is telling me. Wherever this storm makes landfall, this is going to be a significant problem. And I wish I could tell you Monday at noon exactly where that's going to happen. But I can promise you in the next 24 to 36 hours, that will be narrowed down. And then there's going to be a 30 or 40 mile stretch of where we know it's coming on shore. But until we get to that point, it's difficult because when you look at these graphics, like 8 to 12 foot storm surge from, Englewood all the way up to Anclote. No, it's going to be right into the south where the center comes on. But they've got to put that out so they can get people ready because somewhere in that area is where it's going to happen. I will feel much better when we can actually narrow that area down just a little bit more. You know what I mean? But Polk County, over to Sebring, these folks, you're going to have these 70, 80 mile per hour wind gusts. That's going to cause a whole host of problems inland too. We're going to have tons of power outages, not, of course, the storm surge. This is a multifaceted storm, whereas Helene was kind of more of a storm surge issue for us. You know what I mean? It was one facet of a hurricane. This is going to be all of them because it's coming straight across, whether it comes across Sarasota, whether it comes across Cedar Key or Tampa Bay. It's not going to matter. We're all going to feel the storm.
That's what I said.
And it's like, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
What I said before was I feel like because we were taking a lot of phone calls and I'm like, people are like, it's all about, they seem more concerned about the storm surge. I said, yeah, but this thing is coming with power, man. I mean, there's going to be, the wind damage is just as important as the storm surge.
And I agree with you. And the other aspect is all those folks, especially along the coast, those poor folks that lost everything and all their everything is sitting on the curb right now. Yep. Well, some of that lighter stuff is going to become projectile. It's absolutely. Or with 5 to 10 inches of rain, which are forecast, you're going to take all that stuff and try to wash it down these storm drains, which are going to get clogged. And you just start creating a whole host of backup problems. That's why they're trying to get this stuff out as quick as possible, but they're going to run out of time. My important message is for people. This is what I'm going to tell people, and this is what I'm telling anybody. I've got 5,000 personal text messages that I can't return. You need to understand there is a hurricane that's going to hit the west coast of Florida, from Cedar Key down to Fort Myers. I know that's a long stretch. That stretch will be narrowed down. Okay, this is going to happen Wednesday night. You need to be prepared to be by yourself if you're going to be home for 3 days, 72 hours. Just have your stuff, have everything ready to water, food, whatever. That's what you need to do to take care of you and your family. Get in and be there by Wednesday morning. You have plenty of time, but just be there because the FEMA used to have this great catch line, which was the first 72 is up to you. And it makes sense. Be prepared to be by yourself for 3 days with no power and this and that, and then we should start to work from there. No, we are not used to, we haven't had these 100 mile per hour wind gusts, not since I've been here anyway. This hasn't happened in forever. So people don't realize trees are going to come down, power lines are going to come down. We could be without power for an extended period of time after this. So again, these are all, I wish I could move this or change this. You know what I mean? And the only saving grace that we have right now, to be honest with you, is that wind shear. If that wind shear can get to this storm quick enough and try to knock it down, the problem is this storm is going to generate a storm surge, okay? And even if wind shear knocks down the wind speed of the storm, it's not going to touch the storm surge. So whatever storm surge it creates in the next couple of days, it's bringing with it. Does that make sense? That's not going to change.
Yeah. I'm looking
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm looking at your map, the Fox 13 map, and it's got it at a Category 4 at 8 a.m. Wednesday morning. Still a bunch off the coast. I don't know how many miles. What do you think, even, worst case scenario, because that's probably what we should be dealing with. I mean, how much do you think that wind shear is going to drop this thing down?
I honestly, I wish I could answer that question, and I'm not trying to dodge it.
I know. I understand.
Tell you, that is the complete key to the wind forecast. Is when does that happen? We should be able to get an idea. It may knock it down a couple of categories, but I mean, if you're talking about 140 mile per hour storm dropping down to 120, I'm not going to lie to you that's not going to make much of a difference. It really, really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
The other problem, when you start to decrease the wind speeds like that, the wind field is going to expand. So let me give you an example. Let's say the hurricane force, this is a complete example. Hurricane force winds, let's say, as it approaches the coast, go out 40 miles, okay? As the wind speed starts to drop, the hurricane force winds are going to expand out to further distances, putting more people with hurricane force winds. So you're trading one problem for the other. Does that make sense? You're going to trade one problem for the other, but the storm surge is not going to change. The storm surge is not going to change as like people say, oh, the storm's weakening. The storm surge is going to be what is forecasted. Okay. And that in itself is a multifaceted problem. This is not just a coastal problem. This is an inland problem too. So everybody that can listen to you right now will be impacted by this storm.
Do you think this has anything to do? I keep reading where this storm started so far, like it started west in the Gulf. It didn't come up the pike like we've seen a million times, over Cuba a little bit where it lessens and then picks speed back up again. It hits that way. Have you seen this before? Because
this track, no. This track hasn't happened since there is a 1848 hurricane. I know an 1848 hurricane that did a similar path like this. It didn't dip as far south toward the Yucatan, but it kind of moved southeast and then turned back to the northeast and hit Tampa. Okay, that's 1848. I mean, that was a very long time ago. So it's hard to kind of get the data from that we just don't have. But back in 1848, of course, this was a huge, huge issue. So that is the only thing that we can find in the historical records. Now, the last time Tampa's been hit by a major hurricane, 1921. So there's nobody in the Tampa area that was alive for that storm, obviously. So this is all going to be new for all of us, folks. And even though we went through Helene and how tough that was along the coast, it's going to be even harder for the coast. And now we're bringing inland locations in. So everybody's going to have to deal with this. So we need to practice patience.
As a professional in this business, are you nervous?
Mm-hmm. No, you know what? I am nervous. I'm nervous because I want to get this right for everybody. In other words, I want to make sure that I get the right information to the right people. That's what makes me nervous. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing to have somebody be thinking the wrong way. That's what I'm nervous about because everybody's putting out these messages and I just want them to be uniform. So everybody gets the same idea. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But am I nervous in general? I mean, this is what I've been doing for 30 years. When I became interested in weather when I was 7 years old, and it's just like, this stuff is scary. Of course it's scary, but we live here. We had to know that at some point this was going to happen to us. And we just have to hope that maybe it's going to be weaker when it comes on shore. And, we've got you guys, we got us. We'll get through this. We'll get through it together.
There you go. Right. We're talking to Dave Osterberg from Fox 13. Dave, I got a factual question for you. Because the storm is coming across as opposed to going up the gut of the Gulf, it's coming across. The winds are coming at the shore, face on into the land, right? Now, you've talked about the surge we're going to get more surge, right? Is the surge going to come in faster?
If you look at the way the storm's coming in, you see the way the storm's coming in, it's not coming in straight west to east. It's coming in at an angle, south.
Like an angle, right.
It is going to come in at a slight of an angle. Wherever the storm makes landfall and about 20 or 30 miles to the south.
Yeah.
Worst weather, worst storm surge, hands down, because they're going to be getting that full southwest impact. So that is the absolute key to this forecast. It doesn't matter how weak or strong this is. Wherever the storm makes landfall at about 20, 30 miles south, the worst of it will be. And that we're going to continue to fine tune over the next 24 to 36 hours. So if we can narrow down where the worst of it's going to be, we can make sure everybody's out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when it's 500 miles away, it's difficult to get it down to the mile right now. And I know people want that answer, but I want you to understand one thing. We're giving you 3-4 days notice a hurricane's coming. 50 years ago, you didn't get that. Right. So everything is improving and it's getting better. And just understand, when they tell you to get out, we need to get out. I know it's an inconvenience, but they've got you guys wherever they go.
Yeah. So with a 12-foot surge, and last storm, Helene, we had an 8, correct? For example, it was like 4 to 8. Now it's
it was about
12.
7. Okay. I think in the east part of Tampa Bay, it was a little bit over 7. So yes, according to the actual storm surge, this is going to be bigger than Helene. Yeah. Yes.
Right. Exactly. Will people notice a difference not only in depth but in how fast the water's coming in? Will they not have the time they had? That kind of thing. Is there any other difference? And that's what I'm trying to get to. Is there any other difference with this storm, considering the angle and it's coming across the land? Or will the surge happen like last time, but just be deeper? Is that it? I don't know if there's a speed situation
Yeah, it will come in quick. Now, when that question will be answered when we know exactly where it's going to make landfall. But anybody at landfall and to the south about 20 miles, it's going to come in quick, and it's going to come in fast, and it's not going to come in until Wednesday night, mind you. Okay, it'll be dark when the storm surge is likely coming in. Unfortunately, it's going to be a tough time. This will be very different though, because if you're within 20, 30 miles of that center to the south, no one's going to be able to come get you. Nobody. So that's what I'm telling you. If Sarasota County or Manatee County or Hillsborough Pinellas says Zone A, Zone B, whatever they're saying, please heed those warnings, because they've already told us. The law enforcement said, we won't be able to come get you, because not only are we going to have an 8-foot storm surge, we're going to have 100-mile-per-hour winds, guys.
Plus, yeah.
And that brings a whole new aspect into this, and that is the bridges are going to be closed. They're not going to be passable. So you're kind of going to be on your own island wherever you are, and you're just going to have to wait it out, and that's unfortunate. This is going to be a very different storm than Helene was. A very, very different storm.
Mm-hmm. Is this another one of those storms where the bay empties out first and then comes in with a vengeance?
Great question.
Thank you.
If this storm moves, no, seriously, no, ask me these questions, because these are the questions that the viewers and the listeners want to know too. If this storm comes in south of Tampa Bay, let's say south of Tampa Bay, that's not the forecast. I'm not saying that. If it does, that would tend to pull the water back out, or at least, to be honest with you, it probably wouldn't pull the water out. It would lower the storm surge for Tampa Bay.
Okay.
That's why it's crucial where this thing makes landfall. Landfall, 20, 30 miles south, worst of the storm surge. This thing comes in Hernando County or Pasco County, terrible storm surge for Tampa Bay.
At what point in this do you think, and I know you said sometime tomorrow, I guess, but is that when you feel like you'll have it, the eye of the storm, where it's going to make landfall, more dialed in, I'm assuming?
Probably as soon as, I would say, once it makes, right now it's drifting southeastward toward the Yucatan. It's kind of rounding around, and then it's going to turn to the northeast. When it gets on that northeasterly path, probably sometime late tomorrow night, we should have a really good honed in idea in 24 hours exactly where it's going to be.
Right on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, listen, what we're doing now, this is what I've told people today. Listen, you got 2 days. Plan, prep, prepare, and even if you're evacuating, listen, get those things out of your yard. Those trash cans, 100-mile-per-hour winds are going to take away those trash. It's little things we don't think about. Get your yard ready, get your house ready. We'll continue to fine-tune the forecast for you. We can just hope that it changes or hope it gets better. But at this point, everybody needs to realize that there's a real possibility that a major hurricane is going to make landfall along the West Coast on Wednesday at some point late in the day.
Dave, thank you.
Hey, we'll talk to you tomorrow. You think you'll have time for us?
100%. 100%. Awesome. I think on Wednesday, probably the event day, we'll all be kind of on 24 hours. But tomorrow, absolutely. Listen, the more we can chat, the more it's going to help out your listeners. And if you guys get some questions from your listeners, compile them, get them back to me. I'll get you the answers. Because this is the time we need to be there for them.
You're a superhero,
You've
Dave.
earned your cheese.
Yeah.
Go enjoy.
I my cheese. Can I go eat my published chicken tenders now?
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
And slobber it with port wine cheddar. Just get it in there.
FYI, at least from what you share with us, your diet sucks.
No, it doesn't. It's awesome.
Everybody. Well, you bring hurricanes in every other week. I'm stressed out. I got to eat something.
It's comfort food. All right, Dave. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you, buddy.
By the way, I listen real quick. I told my boss after this is over, I'm moving to Alaska. This is it.
Right. Yeah, then you'll deal with blizzards. Careful what you wish for.
The weather's easier.
You trade one for the other. Listen, everybody, please be safe. Heat evacuation warnings, and please prepare. Please prepare. Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, man.
Dave.
Thank you.
Fox 13's Dave Osterberg, giving us a lot of time and a lot of explanation so that you have all the information possible.
Now let Osterberg eat his Publix chicken tendies.
All right.
Those are high demands.
Angry boss guy. All right, well, Roger JP, it's 102.5 The Bone, Real Raw Radio. We'll be right back.